Victoria is planning to ban coal power electricity generation by 2035 as part of its aggressive energy transition policy, the most aggressive in the country. In fact, the state's largest energy generator, the Loy Yang plant, was facing pressure from AGL shareholders to close even earlier than that. But now, the Victorian government has struck a new deal with AGL to keep it open until 2035. This after serious concerns about keeping the lights on. Joining me now is Graham Lloyd, the leader writer for the Australian newspaper. Graham, good to see you. Is this a sign that the Andrews government's green plan is starting to crack and that they were worried about energy security?
Well, good evening, Shari. Certainly this is acknowledgement from the Andrews government that the transition to renewable energy is not going as smoothly as had been hoped, and that there is a need to have some sort of fossil fuels to back things up at least until 2035. It's a deal that's going to cost consumers and taxpayers to put in place. They will be paying AGL to keep their coal plant going just in case the power is needed. And the way things are looking and the judgment from the government is that they certainly are going to be needed for some time.
Look, AEMO, this is the Australian Energy Market Operator, is going to issue its 10-year outlook for the country's energy market in the coming days. We're expecting it this week. Do you expect, Graham, that there will be warnings about similarly, too fast coal to renewable transitions that would threaten electricity grid supplies? Do you think that they are going to have this warning about going too green too quickly?
I think they're going to certainly have the warning about things need to be done quicker and better. Certainly for this year, I think there's a good deal of concern being expressed about supplies around summertime, if it is going to be a hot summer, whether the system will be able to cope. And going forward, they will be looking at all the plans that are in place and judging whether they think those plans can be delivered. And this is the actions we're seeing governments really waking to now, that there've been these big ambitions, but they're taking longer and they're costing more to put in place. So people are now looking for those backup reinforcements to make sure the power doesn't go off.
Now, Graham, I want to move over to Hawaii because this is a really, it's worrying, but it's also fascinating. We've seen the Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy come out and actually blame the extent of the Hawaii fires or how they were handled on the mishandling of the island's water resources. And he claims that the woke officials in charge of Maui's water supply place such a high value on water as a precious resource that they were actually reluctant to release it to fight fires. This is absolutely extraordinary coming out of Hawaii. Has this approach even potentially caused lives to be lost?
Well, it's certainly extraordinary comments that have been made, and there were reports at the time of the fires that those fighting the fires simply did not have the water pressure to suppress them or contain them. It's now been sort of thrust into the political arena where there's comments that there were delays in making those water resources available for reasons that may be for the environment or because they simply wanted to keep the water in reserve. This looks absolutely terrible in light of what has happened. You don't have to look too far for in Australia where the floods in Queensland in 2011, the floods happened because the water authorities wanted to preserve the water. Now, in Hawaii, it looks like there was a desire to preserve those resources either for the environment or for other landholders, but it's really blown up as a big issue.
Yeah, it is, and we'll keep covering it on the show this week. Graham Lloyd, thank you very much for your insights.